Yes, this is another episode about AI. I know we keep hearing about it every single day, but let's be real here. It's happening. It's really happening. Things are changing. So I think the best thing we can do is talk about it, learn about it, adapt, and evolve. So, with that in mind, today I will interview Hunter Powers, a visionary and experienced technology executive with more than 20 years of experience in technology and more than 10 years in leadership roles. Hunter lives and breathes AI and specializes in steering artificial intelligence and machine learning driven solutions for world renowned companies. He also has a very interesting and fun podcast on all things AI called They Might Be Self Aware. Interested already? Yeah, me too. Let's dive into it. Hunter, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. What's this AI thing you're talking about? I don't feel I've ever heard anything about it.
First time, right? I don't know. Yeah, it's
First,
like,
AI.
what's
Is that
that?
is that that Apple thing that came out recently? The Apple Intelligence? Is that AI? The real AI?
We'll see. We'll see. That's a good question right there. Is that AI or not? So Hunter, let's get started with the very
Yeah.
very basics. Can you
Okay.
share your journey in the technology sector and what led you to specialize in AI and machine
Mm.
learning?
My journey, the origin story. When I'm interviewing people, I was like, tell me your origin story. Where did you come from exactly? Yeah, I often describe myself as a lifelong technologist, which started at a very young age. When I was 3 years old, they threw me into a computer class. This is in like the mid '80s, to give you an ounce of context. We were using old Apple IIs at the time, and you're three, like you can't even really read or write. It's like, what exactly are you doing? But we were using Logo, which was a scripting language where you would move a little turtle around the
Yeah,
screen
yeah,
and change
yeah,
the
yeah.
backgrounds. And so the teacher would print out these scripts. And me and my friends would try to like copy the script into the computer to make the longest, movie, whatever you want to call it, animation.
At 3 years
Uh,
old?
3 years old. That's when they started me. They sat me down in the chair and they said, "Type this into the Apple II, or you don't get up." But I was hooked. I loved it. We got in competitions with my friends who could make the longest one, and I kind of never really left. And that started the, I don't know, the hook, the drip, the feed of technology into me. I usually sort of fast forward then in the story to when I was around like 11 or 12. And this was when electronic greeting cards were starting to become a thing. And like my relatives would send me these electronic. There's a company called Blue Mountain that was popular. And if you don't know what is an electronic greeting card, there were these like basically animated GIFs saying happy birthday that came in an email, something like that. It was really novel at the time. And now it's like, eh. But anyways, it was coming through. And all my relatives were sending me these electronic greeting cards, and I really didn't like them. And the reason I didn't like them is because when I got a real card, it always had that like $5 bill in it. But these electronic cards, like, this isn't cool. Just send me the $5. But I was like, all right, I want to create something that has the ease of email, but like the personal touch of a real card. And so I built this website where you could go on and pick out a card and customize it, and we print it out with like a handwritten font. And I built everything myself. It was built on an Access database and what's now referred to as like classic.net, and wildly insecure. Anyways, it ended up getting featured on a few things, and one thing led to another. And I got a job when I was 13, working for a company called Surfchex. That's surfchex.com, and it still exists today. And they put cameras on all the beaches so that surfers can go and check out the
Yep.
waves. And I would work for them for the next few years and built a lot of their early technology. And from that point on, I was always working in startup technology environments. Went to college, went to grad school, and stayed with tech and tech companies, primarily startups, some like medium-sized companies, never any giant companies. I love the startup environment. I love the sort of freedom and to explore and to rapidly innovate and to just decide we're going to do something one day and we all go there. And yeah, as you mentioned, it's been more than 20 years of working in and around those technology startups. The last 10 of those years focused in more leadership positions, but I still keep my hands as dirty as possible if I can't do it at work on the nights and weekends. The last probably like now like 6-ish of those 10 years in leadership have been heavily focused in AI and machine learning, as that's where the industry's going. Now, I specialized that as part of my graduate degree, although it was very different then than what it is today.
Right.
I always sort of saw that as like the ultimate achievement in technology. Okay, now it can do everything. Now we can finally live out our sci-fi dreams, and with the most recent renaissance and large language models and generative AI, that's at least starting to become an ounce of a reality. So, all right, there's your whirlwind origin story.
I love it. I have a few follow-up questions.
Okay.
So you started working very early on, 13 years
Yeah.
old, you were already working, and then you went to school, and then you went to college and everything. I imagine that most of your your teammates, they didn't have the hands-on experience that you had. Did that make it like more fun because now you were learning stuff that you could apply like this, or did it make it more boring because they were like, oh yeah, I know, come on, skip to the fun part?
Yeah, pretty much. So undergrad sucked from that regard, because it's like, I already know all this. This isn't interesting at all. Graduate school, on the other hand, I found very interesting because it was all highly applicable. It was actually focused on the things that I was interested in, and I was learning new stuff. I mean, my specialization was in AI and machine learning. That was fun. Undergrad, no, I didn't like. I barely went to any classes and was just always out working on something else. Show up for the test, whatever the minimum requirements of days I needed to be in the classroom. That was exactly how much I was in the classroom. Yeah.
And then, so you love to keep your hands dirty when you find the moment. It brings me to the question of what drives you, right? What excites you the most? Is it creating something? Is it finding the solution to a problem? Is it bringing something to life? What is it about everything that you do in technology that excites you the most?
Well, I think I naturally just find it terribly, terribly interesting. And so it starts with just trying to understand, okay, so this brand new thing just came out. I want to understand it. I want to get in there and play with it. How is this working? What have they done here? Think about the applications of it. And then I need to build something with it so I can actually like really understand it and where are its limits? How far can we push this? And then think about what's going next. You mentioned the podcast. And there's been multiple podcasts, but I really love talking about this stuff and bantering back and forth about where are we and where are we going and what can we do with that. So the culture of it is infinitely fascinating for me. I'm definitely someone who, like, if this wasn't a job, this would be my hobby. I would do this for free. It just happens that we can get paid for it, which is like kind of the coolest thing ever. And it's much less the specific application of the technology. Yeah, I don't know. Things I shouldn't say. So when you go to interview at a company, they always want you to tell them about how passionate you are about their very specific application of this technology. Oh, wow. Yes, I've always wanted to work on this one specific problem. But the reality is it's the technology that excites me. The application of this specific application is kind of like, okay, sure. But I don't need to get excited by that. I'll get really excited about the tech that we're using and how we're going to go about building it and how we're going to go about working in a giant team or a really small team to bring this solution together. That's exciting to me. The specific application, the specific problem we're solving.
Got it.
Sometimes it's interesting, but that's not the part that's driving me.
So curiosity really drives you learning and applying. And then a follow-up question on that is,
okay,
it seems like technology is advancing faster and faster and faster and faster. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So do you find it harder to keep up, or do you find it that because of the availability of information and the availability of tools that you can get your hands on, it actually it's things are going faster, but you're also learning faster. How do you see that relationship between?
It's absolutely overwhelming, the amount of new technology that we get. And in this AI space in particular, where every week there's there's probably hundreds, but there's like 10 big new products from like people you've heard of, and they're going to change everything. And it's every single week. And maybe you have time to look at one of them, but it would be a full-time job. And it's probably more than a full-time job if you were going to investigate all of them and play around with them and test them. So absolutely overwhelming to try to keep up with it all. And so what do? You listen to some podcasts, you scan the social media to see what are people talking about, what's rising up. I mean, the good news is that the cream of the crop does rise to the top. Right. So you quickly catch on. Oh, okay. Well, this latest GPT-4o release, there's something going on there with their image generation. I'm going to go play with that because I'm seeing more people talking about that than anything else. So, all right. So there's like one area where you kind of feel overwhelmed by it. But if you take a step back, if you go back into the real world, nobody knows anything about any of this. Like, we're still so early days. And so if you're deep in it, it feels like it's late. We're at the end. It's the end days. It's the end times. Yeah. Step out, go talk to people on the street. They have no idea. No idea. So the fact that like, you know what happened 2 years ago in this technology space, like you're already, wow, that guy really knows what he's talking about. So you can take some sanity in that like you don't have to know exactly what point release came out yesterday. Oh, they just updated. Anthropic just updated their weights again on 3.7. There's a small little, no, you don't need to know that. Yeah. And if you need to know that, you can rely on these other forms of media, like your podcast or my podcast, or when you're watching some stream on X, to be like, hey, this is something different, something particular. But I don't know. Yeah, I play with a lot of it. And I try to tell my bosses that, no, this is work. This is work.
Yeah.
I'm not playing.
So let's go to your podcast, which is amazing, and it's one of the sources I use to stay up to date, right? So tell the audience about your podcast. They might be self-aware. What is it about? What's the story behind it?
Sure. They might be self-aware. It's certainly a bit of a tongue-in-cheek reference to AI and this quest for self-awareness. The achievement, or in theory, where we're heading to in AI is to either artificial general intelligence, which they call AGI, or you'll also hear the term ASI, artificial superintelligence. Yeah. And the general one is like the AI that's basically better than most humans at most things. And there's a million different like specific definitions. So that's the basic idea. It's better than most humans and most things. And so that's AGI. And then on top of that is ASI, artificial superintelligence, where now it's like the best in the world at everything. It's a super genius, and it's probably, conquering the world and taking over everything. And, that's when the real singularity in days happen. So in this, as part of this pathway towards general intelligence or superintelligence, is this idea that the AI will become, or perhaps already has become, self-aware, and it has a sense of humanhood. It's a person. It's a thing. It knows what's going on and has an awareness. And so the title is, a tongue-in-cheek reference to that. And also on the show, I co-host the show. My co-host, his name is Daniel Bishop. We worked together for several years. Fun fact, we've never actually met each other, not in real life. Really? We worked remotely together for several years, and now we continue on this podcast. He's actually moving relatively, we live many states apart in the United States. He's moving closer, so there is going to be an actual reunion sometime soon. But known each other for a long time. I've done a few podcasts in the past. I've been in and out of radio and podcasts. That's always been like a side passion of mine. And I pitched the idea to him, and we've been the conversations you see on the show are the same conversations we've been having for a long time, where basically we're talking about what's going on in technology, where is it going, what do we think about it, what are the implications of it, with a bit of friendly banter and pushing each other. And so that's what I at least hope that we bring to the show. We've done a number of episodes now. I think 83 or something are up there now. And we continue to refine it, and it's growing, and that's really fun to see. Uh, you can find it on YouTube if you go and search for "They Might Be Self-Aware," but we're also in every podcast directory, just like your show that we're on right now.
Very good. I love it. I love the show. Um,
Link
what's
in show
working?
notes.
What's working well with AI? What excites you the most today?
Yeah. Well, in most recent times, AI has sort of become synonymous with generative AI or the
Yeah,
large language model. When people are talking about AI, that's usually what they mean. Before that, we would talk about different areas of AI. We would talk about supervised learning and unsupervised learning and reinforcement learning. These were the sort of like the three classical categories of machine learning. But now everyone's talking about generative AI and large language models. And I think because it's by far the most approachable AI has ever been, where anyone, your grandmother can get in there and go and play with ChatGPT and probably be kind of impressed by what it does. Oh, wow, that's kind of interesting. Anyone can get in. Because anyone can get in, the bar of entry is so low, we're seeing so much output coming out from that. And it is rapidly advancing. I mentioned the GPT-4o image model that just came out
yeah.
like last week. And its ability to generate its static images at this point, but it'll be coming to videos just by you describing it in very plain text is kind of astonishing how good it is. And it is truly, I mean, we've had this for a while. If you've ever used one of the Chat GPT-esque types of things where you could describe an image and it'll generate it, but we've gone to a whole new level now that's really astonishing. So that's the area that is most interesting, and it's the most human like. I mean, because that's what we're trying to create these sort of very human like interactions and human like scale to things that we can bring scale to through artificial intelligence.
And on the other hand, what sort of conversation around AI make you roll your eyes like in disgust and apathy, like, oh, again?
I don't know that there's like a specific area that I get disgusted with. I probably the most standard answer would be like the doom and gloom stuff that, okay,
Right.
it'll destroy everything and it'll be the Matrix and we'll all just be batteries for the robots. I don't know about any of that, but I'm happy to discuss the philosophy of it. I think the area that I perhaps get a little bit annoyed with is the hype machine around it, because
Right.
we talked about all these different releases. There's 10 releases a week. And then you got the people that go out there and every single one is, oh my gosh, I'm ripping my hair out. This is so incredible. You're never going to believe it. This is it. Everyone's losing their jobs. Don't even go to work tomorrow. It's just like, I just want to know what it actually is. Give me some sort of like an ounce of realism in your depiction of the impact of this technology. And you really do have to just get in there and play with it yourself to see. You can't trust the hype. The hype is 10 levels above the reality. The reality is still really cool, but the hype is 10 levels above. So that's, if I roll my eyes at something, it's the hype machine, which maybe I'm partially victim of as participating in the media around it.
Does anything around AI scare you?
There's I don't know who said this quote, but I like it and I reference it a fair amount. That people who see AI as a way to do less are often afraid of it. They see that, okay, well, AI is going to replace this, it's going to replace that, and there's going to be less to do. There's going to be less to do. And people that see AI as a way to do more tend to be pretty excited by it. Oh, now I have all of these tools at my disposal to go out and make things happen. And I am definitely one of those people, and I try to convince more people to be that person as well. So, I mean, no is the short answer. I'm not afraid by it. Will there be missteps? Yes. Will there eventually be some giant catastrophe that was caused by AI? Yes. Do I think AI is going to literally take over the world? No, I'm not in that camp. And I guess like if there was a camp to be afraid in, there's that camp. And there are those people. If those are your people, you can go and talk to them and you can pontificate all you wish about how the technology will take over the world.
So when you think about the future of work, do you think we are living through like a new renaissance and now every one of us can do more and more of different things and we are lowering the barrier of entry for so many disciplines?
Yes. And it's all transitioning incredibly quickly. It's one of the hardest things to, at least I think, to understand in AI, because the news story that we talk about the most is it's going to replace jobs. You know, this company, they just let go of 25% of their workforce to be replaced by AI. We see these headlines, and when you dive into it, it's often more of there were economic struggles and they were restructuring and they made these cost cuttings, and as part of their strategy, because you just let go 25% of your workforce, you need to have some strategy to make up for that. Well, their CTO, which by the way, I'm one of them, says, well, we're going to use a lot of AI now to offset that. And so you see that story a lot, and a lot of times it's kind of exactly what I just said. It's more of a hypothesis than the reality, right. And circled around some I don't know, economic turmoil. That said, there are jobs that are actively being heavily augmented, perhaps up to the level of being replaced by AI, and that will only continue because it is definitely getting better. It's not really at the level where you're like, oh, I have these jobs that I currently assign to people, and now I'm just going to hire an AI to do this for me, and it'll work exactly the same. There are tools that could perhaps make you efficient enough that you feel like, I actually don't need to hire someone to do this. I'm just going to go in and use this tool, and it takes me 5 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, and I just kind of replaced an entire person that I previously had to rely on with 15 minutes a day of using the tool. But you still have to go and use the tool. But all right, so I want to go back to your main question, which was, I guess, the transition in work and.
Yeah. So the kind of the future of work, and I was going to do a follow-up more on the future of. Let's dive into the software developer, right?
Yeah.
And everyone is talking right now about 100x developer, right? And there's also talk about more of a need to be a generalistic person, because now you really can do way more, right? But you need to understand the business in a better way. And then also kind of the mix between the developer and a product person and a designer, because the tools allow you to do that, right?
Absolutely.
Do you see some of that? When you think about the future of the software developer, what do you think?
Right. So first, there's the current reality of being a software developer. So in general, there's an entry-level software developer. You might call them an associate, and then there's a mid-level, and then there's a senior level. And there are more levels than that, but just in general, associate, mid-level, senior. And the associate engineer has gone wildly down in value over these last probably like 2 years, but it is accelerating at a tremendous rate because the large language models that are able to generate code have gotten so good that the output from them is very competitive with that of an entry-level engineer. When you assign tasks to an entry-level engineer, there's often a heavy amount of QA, quality assurance, that you need to do to make sure that it works, that it didn't introduce any other issues, that it meets all of the required criteria of, there's probably some ticket that describes the task that they were supposed to be implementing. And that idea is actually, that's kind of how the current state of the AI is as well. The AI is going to generate code for you, but then you need to go back and you need to heavily test it. And you need to see, okay, did we address all of the issues? And did you introduce any security flaws or other bugs throughout the system? And then you can stamp it, okay, it's good to go. Let's release this code. So the process of managing a large language model generating code and the process of managing a associate level or junior software engineer is actually pretty similar, but the large language model is more efficient because when you assign the task of implementing this feature, the feature returns back to you within a couple of seconds versus a couple of days. and it's getting better and it's getting better. So that value has gone down a lot, and then it makes it much harder for an associate level engineer to kind of break into the industry, because what are their opportunities to demonstrate value? And there were times, and I absolutely lived through these times, where anyone, and I do mean anyone could get a job as an associate engineer. We would hire people from any background who just said, I want to learn this stuff. And they would get low six-figure starting salaries. Don't care about your background. I just need to know that you're passionate about this. Now, you wouldn't need to perform, to be clear. Like, you couldn't just sit on your seat and earn $100,000, but we'd hire you because there's so much of a need. There just weren't enough people that. And then now we're sort of at the complete opposite, where like, I don't really know the value. I mean, you're almost going to cost us money if we hire you, because we could be doing this out now. Yeah, we need to grow talent, and we do need mid-level. We still need mid-level engineers. We need senior engineers, but obviously mid-level engineers are coming next. Yeah, so that's changing wildly and vastly. Now, you also asked the question of, okay, so the software engineer most typically, although I don't know, there are different kinds of engineers, but most typically is a very technical person, strong math and science background, writing these logical expressions with whatever the programming language of choice is. And as we are able to replace more and more of that, which, by the way, as we in the past did with a lot of mathematics, does the person who is leveraging this or implementing the code, do they benefit from a more generalist background? And do more generalists come into the field? Because, yeah, you can kind of just describe what you want. There's a trend right now called vibe coding, which to some degree is made fun of, and to some degree is completely legitimate. But the idea is that you're just you're vibing with it, man. You're just sort of punting. Well, I wonder if we could possibly do this. And could you make it a little more fun? And I don't know, move some of these buttons to the right, and think about like classic. What would Steve Jobs do here? Do that, and you're just having this sort of open conversation with a large language model that's generating your code in real time. And there are people out there who have had a very high degree of success doing this. Now, again, I think there's a little bit of marketing hype in there, but it is a real thing. Vibe coding, just describing the software that you want, and it magically appears. And so as that becomes stronger, then is the person that's running the software engineering team, that's guiding the software, more of what we would probably typically refer to as a product person, thinking more about what is the product that I'm building, what are the use cases, who are the different personas that we're going after here, and engaging with it from that standpoint. And so I absolutely think that that's a trend that we are going to see. I've seen some development teams now, when their product teams come up with new feature ideas, they have a requirement that they must build a prototype. You got to build the prototype, which you ship as part of the requirements, and they're leveraging these tools like v0.dev or bolt.new, which are these tools that allow you to describe an app or a feature, and it will quickly build out the user interface, and it's interactive. And so just ship that with your requirements over. And again, that'll just keep getting better and better and better till product comes up with an idea for a new feature and it appears. But then eventually, right, the product goes away and it gets moved down to the customer. The customer describes the feature and it just appears. And there certainly is this idea of taking it to the extreme where all software is essentially on demand. What is it you need today? Well, all right, I need something to like track my to-dos, and you've got some musical equipment back there. You know what? I want to catalog all of this and look up the values on everything and determine like what needs servicing, and it just builds that application in the background and is ready to run. We're far away from that. I don't want to suggest that that's tomorrow, but you can see the path that we're on. But now, just to go back one more time to your main question, yes, I think that the role of the engineer is going to benefit from more and more creativity, where traditionally that hasn't been an emphasis at all. It's just been on sort of a math and science focus.
So, what would be your advice for anyone listening, very young, making their first steps, and they want to get into technology, but they face that situation of, nobody needs associates, or how do I get my jobs, or where, what do I learn? What do I do, right? What will be your advice to them?
Well, the first thing is you got to start playing with the technology. Which, by the way, if you hate playing with the technology, I know people just get jobs to make a living, and everyone's got to make a living. I understand it, and like some people hate their work, but if you're listening to Hunter Powers right now, and if you're listening to Hunter Powers, I'm going to tell you, if you hate playing with the technology, go find something else to do. But start playing with it, because it's never been more approachable. You can vibe code things. You can sit there and have a conversation. All I'm going to do is have a conversation and talk about things. And you don't need to talk about code and engineering. Just start interacting with it, because I believe that it's through those interactions that you're going to have that spark. You're going to be like, oh, I wonder if I could do this. And that's what you're really trying to discover. What are the areas that interest you within this wide realm of technology, which is rapidly becoming everything? And how can I explore that with technology? And then, go deeper in the areas that you want to explore and start building out solutions. And these tools have ways. So let's ChatGPT. It's got to be like the leader of these things. If you want just like one generic suggestion, go get an account on ChatGPT. And you can create custom GPTs, which are like custom little AIs that are focused around your particular area. And you can give it rules and suggestions, and here's some material, and just play and experiment until you find the area that interests you. Now, part of your other question was, okay, I am an entry-level engineer. I'm trying to get that first job. How do I differentiate myself amongst the candidate pool? The thing that I've consistently seen work best, and again, it's a little bit counter to my first part, which was like, I love the technology. I actually don't tend to care all that much about the solution. It's about the technology for me. That's what will always drive me forward. But what companies want is passion in their specific application of the technology. Right. It makes sense. And you want to demonstrate a passion in their application of the technology, which the best way of doing is like build something for them. Build a demo that is a kind of product or a kind of tool. And by the way, it doesn't need to be great, because you're just demonstrating like, hey, you know what nights and weekends I'm doing? I'm thinking about your specific problem area, and I've thought about it, and I put together some solutions, and like, let me show it to you. Now I have like working code that I can demonstrate that's in your specific area. And like, that's the thing that I when I see people, just especially entry-level people, blow it out of the room in an interview, it's because we're like, hey, come here and check this out. Check what this person just did. That's actually something that we're kind of working on. Like, okay, wow, I want to talk to that person because they seem like they're very interested in the space that we're doing. And they have that kind of independent motivation to learn and to get better. Because one thing that is true about this field is you have to always be learning. I guess there are some, you can be the cobalt engineer working in the government and you don't have to learn anything new. But that's a very small portion of our sector. In general, you got to always be learning. And so demonstrating that independently, demonstrating a passion in the both the technology and the specific application for the business, I think is the best way of getting your foot in the door. And I think that will continue.
So going back a few things that you're saying, and going back to the rolling our eyes on media hype and everything, and going back to the fear and being afraid versus the mentality of growth opportunities that this is going to bring. Do you think we just need to dream bigger, and we are not dreaming big enough that, as a society?
I think that's probably a fair critique, that we should dream bigger. It's hard to dream bigger. What does that mean exactly? And don't we already have, like, there's some guy who thinks we should move to Mars. Like, isn't that big enough? What do you mean dream bigger? But yes, I think that is an important part. It's probably something that I struggle with, like trying to figure out what's the most impact that we could have. What are the limits of where we could push this technology today? What's the most value that we could bring? The most impact on the greatest number of people. There are like tools, like there's the 10x idea, where like, all right, set your goal, which is the most ambitious goal you can think of, and then just think of what's the 10x version of that, 10 times that goal. Okay, now that's your goal. Or there's the what's the other one? Dropping his name right now, but he's Peter Thiel had this, who's a famous investor, and it was part of PayPal, etc. But this one of his things in evaluating companies that he might invest in is you come and you pitch like, here's what I'm going to build over the next 2 years. And he says, okay, now how would you build it over the next 3 months? And if you don't have an answer to that question, in theory, he's not going to invest in you. But you can take that same idea as well. Okay, maybe as far as like, how do I think bigger? Think about what your horizon is over the next 2 years. Now think about, okay, what if I had to get that done in 3 months? And AI is probably an integral part of that solution on how I could potentially scale myself out and scale others out in order to bring that degree of value, that degree of vision in a much shorter period of time. And we can keep doing that exercise over and over again to try and think bigger. But also part of it is the technology changing so much. So this is a challenge in the, I don't know, it's a challenge everywhere, but in the AI space as well. So we're going to start building this. All right. So the main company that I work for right now is building an AI real estate agent.
Right.
Do we build an AI real estate agent based upon the technology of today? Or do we try to think about where the technology is going to be in a year from now, in 2 years from now? And that is our product vision. And we're just going to start building and pray to God that the technology gets released on time and is cheap enough to actually use. Because if we don't, the second that we ship it, someone else is already gonna someone's gonna vibe code it on a Saturday on Twitch and be like, make me an AI real estate agent, it will buy all the houses for me and get me the best deal all the time, and I want it to be fun. And they're gonna do that, and like bam, it's gonna pop out, and what we worked for the last year on is now captured in a 30 minutes on a Twitch session. So yeah, thinking big, and especially in the AI field, thinking past that with the assumption that the technology is going to catch up to you. Because if you're building for the limits of today, you're going to quickly be left behind.
Intense. That's accurate and intense.
But fun. Hopefully
fun. Yeah.
Fun.
For sure. I
remember, if you don't enjoy this stuff, Hunter says, go find something else. There are still other jobs out there. I promise you.
Hunter, one last and very random question to you.
Okay.
I don't want to say what do you do when you're not working.
Yeah.
Because you love so much what you do that So what do you tell me? What does a weekend look like for you?
So yeah, a self-proclaimed workaholic. As I said, if this wasn't a job, if no one would pay me for this, I would still do it the majority of the time. But outside of the technology, I live at the beach. I love the beach. The waves are crashing just maybe like 150 yards that way, and the sound is 150 yards back that way. So I'm out there most days. I love some grilling, grill some meats, smoke some meats. As Mark Zuckerberg once did a famous live session.
Right.
One. I love a lot of music too. I see you've got some music in your background. There's some guitars and amps kind of over there. So yeah, but the average weekend is catching up on things that I have to catch up on, and then there's usually like at least a full day where I can be heads down and just playing with the technology and experimenting things. And then once the sun gets down enough, because I've got a fairly fair complexion, I hit the beach and enjoy the great infinite nature of the ocean. And so I can just look out and sit out there floating around and crash in some waves.
That's beautiful. And you could have a lot of fun in Uruguay. Let me tell you, you just mentioned all the things that I love. So there's the music. There I have a barbecue right next to this.
Nice.
This is a garage right next to it. There's a barbecue, right?
Excellent.
I don't live that. I live like 10 blocks away from the beach, but I don't have nice waves.
Oh, nice.
Here. No, it's like But if I drive like 1 hour east, I get good waves.
Okay.
So good stuff, Hunter. This has been amazing. I love talking to you. I love your passion. I love, since the moment I saw your podcast, I said, I have to get Hunter on my podcast. And now you're bringing a little bit of that, energy into my podcast. And I love it. I'm so thankful for doing this. And I hope that sometime we can get to do it again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mateo.